Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to a Social Matrix podcast. I am your host, Armin, and today we have two special guests here with us. We have Chris Alvino and Daniel White. Please, gentlemen, take it away, introduce yourselves, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Hey guys, my name is Chris Alvino, and I'm a sex and dating coach. Been doing that for probably over a decade now. I have a lot of experience around all things sex and dating, and also BDSM related. And I'm not sure how much details I should go into, or we'll get into the details on the call. But if you want to find out more about me, you could find all my links and everything at just chrisalvino.com. That's got everything. You can even sign up for, you know, a thing. I don't, I don't even know what's on there, but you could reach me there. Um, yeah.
Awesome. For the guys that don't know me, I'm Daniel White, men's dating coach, focus helping guys on number one, like cold approach, meeting women in real life. And number two, I have a very big passion on helping guys get over their nice guy issues. I think a lot of men's attraction issues relate from these nice guy energies inside of us, whether that's seeking approval from others, not being able to own our sexuality because of shame, or that's not a good thing to do as a man. So that's my area of expertise and passion. And yeah, excited to be here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's a pleasure having both of you
Love
here.
it.
Now, the topic is about sex and BDSM and how it relates to dating and inner game. Now, this question is for both of you, but for now, I'm just going to go on to Chris. Chris, how has your personal journey with BDSM shaped your understanding of identity and personal relationships?
That's a good question. And so, well, the way I would approach BDSM, well, actually, let's rewind to how I kind of discovered BDSM, which was many moons ago. Um, I started watching BDSM porn, and it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. There's something there. I wasn't sure about it. Like, it's very. I was like, oh, you get off from spanking. Like, I didn't really fully understand it, but it was interesting, right? And then once I started dating, and for guys who don't know my story, I didn't even start dating until like my mid 20s, because I didn't know how to talk to women. I was very ostracized, and so I had to learn all this stuff, right? And so like I started learning about women and sex and dating. Um, and one thing I noticed when I started getting with more women was like a lot of them wanted to be spanked, or they wanted like rough sex. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is this thing that they're after, right? And that's what kind of introduced me to this world of BDSM beyond just porn, beyond just, oh, it's like, oh, we're going to tie you up and spank you, and it looks kind of hot. Which, like, I always thought it looked hot, but I didn't really understand it. We're like, oh, we're going to tie you up and we're just going to look at you. And I was very confused. And so I started dating women who were into BDSM. And then that's how I started dabbling into this world. Um, and what I discovered was everyone can kind of relate to BDSM differently. Like it's more like it's not just about being bound or being spanked. Like there's a huge psychological component to it, and not just psychological, but like biological too. And so for me, exploring BDSM was a lot about exploring my own like psychology and exploring my own biology, right? Like through BDSM, I found out that I'm very sensual. And like I didn't know that at the time, but once I started doing BDSM, like it's BDSM is a huge umbrella, a lot of different things. And I noticed I would just naturally gravitate towards certain items, like sense play, sensuality play is something I started gravitating towards. And then I really realized like, oh, I'm very sensitive, like sensually, like to senses. And then that became a way for me to relate to women in terms of like when we're having sex, I would get really into the sensual play, and then that would like turn their bodies on and they would get all electrocuted and stuff, you know. Um, and then the psychological aspect started coming out too, where I started stepping into more of this kind of like the more dominant energy, during BDSM play and sex, and it felt really good. And I was like, oh, this feels really natural for me. And like, yeah, and normally I'm pretty chill, pretty passive, but like in in BDSM play, I could step up and be this more dominant guy. And then it started to feel really, really natural, really, really good. And then, my play partners, they would respond really well to it. And so, like, I started understanding myself more as a man as I was exploring BDSM, which was really interesting because I didn't expect that to happen. Um, and so I think that answers your question.
Yeah, there are no wrong answers here, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was beautifully stated. And
Yeah.
Daniel, do you want to take a take on that with sex?
Yeah, just a couple of things to add to what Chris said. I think it's also really interesting. I've always just been like passionate about people and curious about people, even when I first got into game, it was kind of like, wait, why does this work? Why if I
Yeah.
kind of tease a girl, do I see her like light up a bit? It didn't make logical sense in my brain, just the way humans work. And I think what Chris is touching on is also like how eros works, how
Yeah.
arousal works. It doesn't like play by the normal logical book where it's like, well, why if someone's getting tied up and have hot candle wax poured on them, like why does that get them off? In the logical mind, it's like that doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
humans are brilliant. Humans are a lot more complicated than that. And especially when it comes to eros and turn on. And to me, BDSM is almost just like it's like the final destination, or at least one aspect of seduction.
Mhm.
Even when you're talking to a girl at a bar, you might not be tiring her up, but a lot of the same principles and energetics are at play. Although most guys don't even realize that, where Chris talks about stepping into that like Dom energy. To me, I believe that's an archetype that exists inside every man. It's like a template, like an energetic template that's often blocked, and guys don't ever be able to express that. So when
Mhm.
Chris is like stepping into that Dom energy, yeah, you can do that in the dungeon, in the bedroom, in BDSM play. But I bet that also has an impact on other areas of your life. When you're taking on your business, it might not be a sexuality related thing, but it's like, how do you be more dominant in that, more clear in your
Yeah.
boundaries, or like leading in what you do? So to me, the terrain is really vast. And just the last point on the fascination of human beings, it's also like, especially when it comes to women's eros, how much capacity there is for like negative emotion or like negative experience, where it's like, oh, like obviously from me, I came up with like a nice guy conditioning, which is just like be nice to women, like buy them the
Right.
flowers, like say the nice things, like open the door. Nothing wrong with being chivalrous and a gentleman. That's awesome. But especially in the world of BDSM, it's like there's a whole nother side to it. You need to be able to play like the sadist, the
Mhm.
masochist, and see your woman get off on that as well. And I think like pickup almost like stumbled across this in a way with even as something as simple as the neg, which gets a lot of shit like, oh, why are you lowering this woman's like self-esteem by like teasing her about something? But in BDSM, it's like they take that to like the nth degree. You want to go into humiliation play, it's like a neg is like a fucking nothing little scratch on the surface compared to how deep you can pull on that thread. So to me, there's
Mhm.
so many layers of seduction, and it's all fascinating. I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
guys are not just totally captivated by the subject.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so big. There's so much, like, even like for me with BDSM, I've studied it a lot, and there's still huge segments I haven't even touched yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I've spent years studying it, and so it's like there's just so much.
Yeah.
Human sexuality is just so vast.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm curious, Chris, from your side, like, I don't know if you always had that capacity or seeing like women get off on like negative emotion or even something like spanking, like a kind of painful experience. What was that like for you to witness? Was it kind of like eye-opening or like, wow, I didn't see that coming, or like, wow, she really likes that? What was your experience with that?
I mean, it's that's a good question. I'm trying to think what it was like in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in the beginning I didn't really understand it. And
Mhm.
so like I liked it. I like visually, I'm like it looks sexy. But like I couldn't like I wasn't getting off to BDSM porn, but it looked hot and I would, it's sexy. And then when I saw it in person, it was like, oh, well, in person it's different because the energy is there. Like you feel it, and it's like, oh shit, like shit's happening. Like hormones and pheromones and shit, like human beings, like shit is going down biologically. And so I felt the changes, and and for me, like I also like I grew up as a nice guy, and so I was in that nice guy mentality for a long time of like like, like I had that mentality of like you can never do anything bad to a woman ever, right? And uh ultimately though, it's like how do I describe it? It's like the pain, like well, it changes, right? Like when you're in that BDSM mindset, pain is different. And that was something that I didn't really understand in the beginning, but then I eventually got was like, oh, it's like once someone's more aroused, it's like the way their brain interprets pain signals is totally different than when they're not aroused. And so then it's like, oh, and then I started playing with that when I would do BDSM play, where it's like, oh, we do a slow burn into more intense play, and and what's amazing is once you kind of like I kind of call it like you see the Matrix, right? I know it's cliche, but it's like you start to see the Matrix in terms of like sex and sexuality. And I could feel when like my sub or my play partner, like I could feel their body. It's almost like their body becomes an extension of your body in this weird kind of way. And then when they were feeling pain, even though, and so for me, I'm very pain averse. So like I don't get off when I'm hurt. And so then that was another thing that was confusing for me. Like and maybe this is from like my own past of traumas and stuff, but like when I get pain during sex, like my sex brain shuts off. It's like, oh, we got to go into fight or flight mode. Like I'm fight or flight mode. But what I had to realize was like, oh, for most women, it's totally different. It's totally different for them. And so I had to let go of my own experience of like, I don't think she's gonna like that because I wouldn't like that. And it's like, no, she fucking loves it. I'll give her all the pain she wants. And I've been with a few like pain sluts with which was interesting, and some of that too kind of pushed some of my boundaries. And this kind of brings up a topic too that I think a lot of guys don't get, which is guys can have boundaries in BDSM too. And like one girl wanted me to punch her in the face as hard as I could, and I was like, I can't. That's a hard, maybe someone else could, but I can't. Like I'm not, that's not what I can do. And so, like she wanted me to give her black eye. And I was like, I don't want to give you a black eye. I don't want to punch a girl as hard as I can in the face. Like that's not something that so I had to put a limit on that, which was a first for me. Cause like I usually just, I'm like, oh, I don't got any limits or something. But it turns out, I think people say that when they're inexperienced with BDSM. Like I used to say that when I was younger. I don't have any limits. I'll do whatever. And then you meet someone who's got some really far out limits, and you're like, oh, you know. Um, but yeah, like for me, it was a big kind of empathy problem where when I started, I thought women wanted what I wanted, right? And or at least they would enjoy things that I enjoyed. And then I had to get out of that mindset and be like, oh, she's a sub, I'm a dom. Subs want something or they need different things than what doms need. And once I really figured that out, then everything made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then I could give, and then I could give a lot of pain without getting that like queasy feeling, like, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. Um, I was able just to go into it and and whenever I would question it, like, oh, did I go too far? Um, you have your safe words, you have your signals, right? Or I'd always just use the colors, right? Like red, green, yellow. And then I just ask her what her color is, if, like when I was going really hard, and it's like, oh, did I go too hard? And she's like, no, we're good, it's green. And it's like, okay, now I know, right? And then that's the other part too, is learning your partner's limits. And so like you want to take it slow, especially when you're younger or like when you're more inexperienced with BDSM. A lot of times we kind of bite off more than we can chew. I know I did that a few times. But what I found now is like when I'm with someone who's new, I'm going to work slowly with them to discover what what they're comfortable with, what they prefer. That was another mistake I made moving from sub to sub. The first time I did that, I kind of assumed, oh, this sub needs the same thing as my last sub. And it's like, no, they're totally different people, totally different needs. And so, I stopped doing that right away. And, you got to treat every sub totally unique. You have no idea Like even if they tell you, like that's what threw me off too, is like a woman will tell you like, oh, this is what I'm into. And it's like, oh, that's what my last sub was into. But it could like they might have different definitions, they might have different expectations, and so don't make any assumptions about like what your sub or your woman wants in BDSM. You got to be really explicit about that stuff, and you got to work with each other and practice, and it's like a whole thing. So
I like
kind of
what
went off on a
Chris.
tangent there, but
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful,
all
beautiful.
good. I like what Chris said in terms of like, okay, what a sub looks for and what a sub needs is very different from what a dom looks for and what a dom needs. And I'm going to kind of pull it out like from BDSM specifically into more seduction, but it also,
Mhm.
it's like there's this quote in Rocky where he says something like, I've got gaps, she's got gaps, together we fill gaps. And to me, this is like, just relationship advice. It's like men and women are different. We have different needs, and
Yeah,
together we fulfill each other's needs. And again, in like the dungeon or the bedroom in BDSM, it's kind of like exaggerated. The different needs are like so in your face. But when a
yeah,
guy's on a date with a girl, just like Chris said, and I think I did this as well. Lots of guys do. It's like, oh, she wants what I want. So then they like communicate with the girl and like, oh, this is what I would like if I was sitting on a date with a girl, but her needs are completely, well, there's a lot of different needs she has to you as a man. And men
hmm
like project their needs and realities onto women in the dating scene. And then they wonder, it's like, women keep ghosting me. Like, no girl wants to talk to me. It's like they don't actually understand like what they're bringing to the table. And like Chris said, like maybe it's nothing crazy for me or for him. Like, okay, I'll do this little bit of pain thing, not even sure why she wants this, but she's loving it. Awesome. You're fulfilling a need for her. That's a DHV. That's demonstrating value versus like,
hmm
this is what I think you should need, and I'm going to give it to you. And then I'm going to get pissed off and resentful when you ghost me 2 days later because I actually kind of missed the boat completely. So, yeah, again, I just like what Chris is saying, where it's like the things you learn in the bedroom, in the dungeon, so to speak. It's like all of that stuff applies outside of the dungeon in relationship dynamics. This whole men and women are the same. It's just total nonsense, and nowhere is that better proven in a dungeon in a BDSM scene. So yeah, thanks for sharing, Chris.
yeah. I mean, that's so true. Thanks for adding that part on, because it translates like a lot of. I feel like I got better at relationships because I did BDSM. Just because that dynamic, like you said, like it's like it's exaggerated. So then when you go out of the dungeon, it's like easy. It's like it's so much easier, you know. And he's like a big part of BDSM is like the negotiations and like the communication part of like negotiating a scene. I guess we haven't talked about that for like people who don't know what that means, but it's like in BDSM, you kind of plan what you're going to do. Oh, we're going to do like a spanking scene, or we're going to do like a rope bunny scene or something, right? And you kind of negotiate what's going to happen because I mean, it can be kind of scary. You're doing scary stuff, and you got to make sure you're both on the same page. And I remember when I started, I wasn't well versed in that. I wasn't really practiced in that. And I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna spank. We'll do like a spanking scene or something. And like it was, I like for me, just in general, I'm like a big picture person. I'm not like a details person. But I realized to be good at BDSM, you have to be good at the details. And so I had to work on that. And so like communicating with my subs, and it's like we got to be on the same page about everything, and because they're trusting you too, right? Like if she's gonna be tied up for like an hour, like anything could happen. So she really has to trust you, and she really has to make sure that you're both on the same page. And so for me, doing BDSM and learning how to like properly negotiate a scene and properly communicate with my subs, like that all transferred over to like real world relationships, and even beyond just even like men woman relationships, but just like really communicating what you need, what the boundaries are, things like that. I mean, a lot like a big part of BDSM is just communication, and you learn a lot. Like if you're gonna get good at BDSM, you become a really good communicator. Like there's no other way to do it.
Now,
So yeah.
real quick, a theme that both of you have brushed on a few times is
hmm
respect, and I had a question about this coming up. But before I go to my question, Daniel, did you want to share your own personal journey
In terms of
in terms of
what?
sex? in terms of sex and how that shaped your understanding of identity and personal relationships? I want to make sure
Yeah,
like you
I
get
can.
that chance.
Yeah, I can touch on it briefly where it's like I was brought up in more of a religious household, so like sex was a big no-no topic, a lot of shame around that, like caught watching pornography or masturbating, it's like, what the hell are you doing? You're going to hell. So like that adds a lot of layer and of shame on. I even remember when I was a teenager, like my friends started having sex when they were, I don't know, like 16, 17. And I remember I was at like Christian camps and stuff like that. Like I would be like, they'd be like, oh, so if there's a naked girl just lying in front of you right now, like you wouldn't even be aroused and have sex with her. And I was like, no, I would never. Like, I'm waiting for marriage and all this type of stuff. So there was a lot of limiting beliefs in my own mind around sex. You know, it's bad, it's wrong. And then it's kind of like this dual feeling because then your hormones are coming online, and like part of you is like, fuck, I want that. And then like you have this idea in your head that you've been programmed with. It's like, that's the worst thing in the world. So for me, my own journey in terms of identity and sexuality, it's like, my part of my nice guy program was nice guys don't want sex. And it
Mhm.
became a huge shadow piece for me in my identity. I think that's why a lot of guys battle in seduction and dating because they're pretending that they don't have a dick. You know, they're like talking to this girl, like, oh, I'm so nice and this stuff. Good to get to know a girl, awesome. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, own your sexuality, own your sexual desires. Chris was talking about communication, where I'm a nice guy, and for me and my journey with identity, it's almost like, no, I don't want sex. Like we can just hang out. And then I'd get all like bummed and butthurt when the girls always friend zone me. I'm like, why do I always get friend zoned? Meanwhile, the girls were always just mirroring me. I was hiding and disowning my own sexuality, so the girls would never see me as a sexual option, and then I would always get pissed off and resentful for them not seeing me. But I was not taking responsibility for what I was bringing to the table. So in terms of my own identity, it was so liberating just going on the journey, mainly through the dating stuff, where it was like just coming back into contact with my sexuality. So in terms of like Chris is saying the BDSM, that's like an even deeper journey. But for me, like the most important thing was just like, it's okay to be a sexual man. You know, it's
Yeah.
okay to want sex from women. It's the most natural fucking thing in the world, and our species wouldn't be around if men did not own that desire. Unfortunately, today there's a lot of programming out there. Men are just these pigs, and like, oh, men are disgusting, and like the feminist narrative. I think for the general population of men, it really weighs down on them. And I think, like Chris said, like learning BDSM or sexuality, it starts to reconnect you with that part of yourself. I think like Eros is like its own energy. And to me, it has like a lot of shadow forms. So I'll like talk to guys that are like, oh, I don't want sex. Like, I haven't had sex with a woman in like 3 years. And not because they don't want to. And then I'll be like walking in the street and they'll see a beautiful woman, and it's almost like they're like don't want to look. And they're
Yeah.
like,
They're like
no, I don't
afraid.
care. Like, I'm not that guy who like objectifies women. And it's that same guy who's like going home and like watching like tentacle anime porn. It's like the Eros like needs an outlet. And if you don't do it in a healthy, conscious way, it's gonna find its own way out in more destructive ways. And guys are hiring prostitutes and like happy ending
Mhm.
massage parlors. And it needs to find a way out. So yeah, in terms of my own identity, just like integrating that part of my psyche, which I'm still doing and I'm still on the journey of. But to me, that was just like a huge part of my own experience as a man. So that's what I'd like to add on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a
Oh,
lot of sense.
that makes more. I mean, that's more. I mean, you basically described my whole background.
Yeah.
It's same. I was raised same way, where sex was evil, and I was made to feel ashamed of my sexuality from a very, very young age. From like 5 or 6 years old. I was interested in girls really, really young, and then I was shamed for it, and then um, like the biggest fight I ever had with my parents was when they found like a porno mag under my bed. And it was I think like middle school or like I was a teen, like I was like probably 13 or 14. And that was like the big thing, You know, like all the, like when you think about kids and all the trouble they get into, my big thing was I had a porno mag under my bed. Like, oh, like fucking, you'd swear I was like doing heroin or something. Like it was like the worst. It was like I was dead to my parents. It's crazy. And then, and yeah, like then you grow up and you're like, you can't flirt with women. Like you can't be direct. You think like, and I think a lot of nice guys, they start to think if I'm nice enough, then she'll give me the sex. So then they keep trying to be nicer and nicer and nicer. But all that does is put them further and further in the friend zone because the way that you get sex is you have to be sexual. And this took me so many years to fucking figure out. Like looking back, it's like Jesus Christ, that's so stupid. But now I'm like, no, no, it's not that I was stupid. I just, you know, nobody told me. Like nobody could help me. You know, and even the guys in that I knew who were good with girls, they couldn't help me. They couldn't explain it. Like one of my friends who's really good with girls, he's like, just go up to her and talk to her. I've tried that, bro. Like, I need something more. And he's like, one of my friends was like, just like put your arm around her ass or something. And I was like, what? You could just do that? It's like, look, and so don't do this. But this is what one of my friends told me to do in high school was like, just grab her ass. And if she doesn't say no, then you're good. And, you know, and that was like the advice that I got. And it was, you know, and now like that's assault. Like you can't just grab someone's ass. You know, and for good reason, right? So, but it's like that was the extent of the advice I got from my peers. You know, so I was trying to figure it all out. And then that's how I got into pickup, because at least pickup had some answers. I don't think it has the best answers, but it has it has decent answers for a lot of this stuff. And that's kind of how I found my way to pickup was like, oh, they give me some openers to try. They kind of worked. I was like, oh, there's something here. Cause like I'm getting better results. Women, you know, or they're like, I had to practice Kino, you know, like touching, and it's like, oh, and then that would kind of work. And it's like, oh, there's something here. But yeah, like when you're a nice guy and you raise like religiously or anti-sex, and then you're just at a huge disadvantage for a long time, like you got to fix it, because a lot of guys learn this as teenagers. You know, like this is what I tell my clients is it's like guys who struggle like myself, we just weren't socialized correctly when we were young. You know, either like with Daniel, like you grew up in like a very religious household. And like my household, my parents were religious, but they didn't force it on me. And so it was more like, but they were very anti-sex. And so like for us, like they would turn the channel if there was like kissing on TV, like they would change the channel. Like it was that bad. Like we couldn't even have kissing on TV. My mom would be like, that's disgusting. And so like I heard that like 10 times a day for, you know, 18 years, like kissing is disgusting and sex is disgusting. And that shit kind of gets up here too. And so you have to unlearn all that like anti-sex propaganda, and you have to heal your own shame around your own sexuality, you know, and masculinity. Like you were saying, like a lot of men feel shame for being a man. And it's like, you know, and that's something that I try to teach men to be proud to be a man, you know. And like, yeah, there's a lot of asshole men and there's problems with like, you know, like the toxic masculinity stuff. Like, yeah, sure. But you could also be a good man. Like you could be a good man and be proud to be a good man. And if anyone gives you shit, just own it. Like I own my masculinity. I don't give a shit. You know, I have, here's the funny part though. Like I love this that's happening now is because like I'm very vocal on Twitter and I'm getting a big audience there. And one thing that happens is like I'm very vocal about all this stuff like that we're talking here. I post that all the time on Twitter. And what's funny, I have lots of lesbian like misandrists who follow me and who have my back. So like all these women who claim to hate men have my back because I'm talking about this stuff like very positively. And they share my shit, you know? One of the best things I ever saw was I was getting harassed by someone about like one of my sexuality takes. I had all of these angry lesbians attacking attacking these trolls. And it's like, but they hate men. In their bios, they're misandrists. It says, you know, and that's what I mean where I'm like, this shit it's universal. And so like once you learn how to be true to yourself, how to own your masculinity, and you don't take shit from anyone, like even people who say they hate men, it's like they really just hate bad men. And so, and nice guys don't realize that they're actually part of the bad men. And I mean, that's, I guess is a whole other topic, but it's like, cause it's a lot of manipulation. Or like nice guys are always manipulating everybody, and so it makes everybody feel kind of uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. But if you're a nice guy, you're like, I'm being so nice to everyone. And it's like, oh, but you're being nice to get something. It's not genuine. It's like, oh. Um, but yeah, once you own who you are and you own your sexuality, you own your masculinity, I'm like, everything just starts working. You know, like nothing, like ever since that happened for me, I mean, my mental health, no more issues with mental health after that. Like that was, um, you know, like I'm thinking back just in my mind, like how like depressed I used to be, how anxious I used to be. But once I started owning my masculinity and my sexuality, all that, all that anxiety went away. And it's like, oh, I was taking on all the shame of like my parents and society and just, it's heavy. But once you let go of all that and you can just be your own man, like, and I think that's what most men are seeking right now. They don't know how to be their own man. You know, they're ashamed.
Let me cut real quick, Chris. And
Oh
this
yeah.
is amazing. Okay, I don't want to cut you off, but I have a
Hmm.
question in here that I need to ask both of you. And this is what most of the community. This is the one question everyone is trying to like solve. And it
Hmm.
goes back with respect on respecting yourself. So I have a bunch of clients and also other men that I know. They go to sex parties or a BDSM event or some kind of sex orgy or something. And when they go to these events, they have this shame where they feel inside, and it's stopping them from embracing who they are and taking advantage of their own like, sexual deviance. So, what advice do both of you have in men in either BDSM events or just sex orgies or places where sex is there, not just clubs, for them to get out from feeling this shame about themselves and basically kind of like disrespecting themselves in some way? Whoever wants to take it, Danielle.
Yeah, a couple points on this. So there's probably like in the event type things you can do. So you're like, okay, I'm at a sex party, like I feel shame, I want to go get involved in this. I can see something's happening. I feel this desire to go get involved, but I feel the shame around it. Like there's probably like things you can do in that moment. Like you could say things like baby step it, like, okay,
Hmm.
start to explore little things, take a little bit of a step into this. You don't have to go from 0 to 10 because it's almost like approach anxiety and pickup. It's like the guy standing, he's like, yeah, but what am I going to say when I get the number? Like, how's that going to happen? It's like, just go over there and start the conversation. We will worry about the rest as it kind of comes. So for a lot of these guys that are standing like, oh yeah, I want to show my sexual deviant and I've got all these kinky desires that I want to come up. It's like, okay, well, you're standing in the corner now. Like maybe just go walk over and talk to someone and maybe start off by talking about it. Like, wow, I think that's really hard how that girl's getting spanked. There's a part of me that would love to spank a girl. So, like, even just being able to express it before getting into it, that's going to help release some of the shame. I know Jordan Peterson's not talking about BDSM, but I know he often talks about in sexuality. He's like, if you can't speak about the act that you're gonna do, you probably shouldn't do it with that person. And this ties back to what Chris said earlier on communication. Like a lot of guys are like, yeah, I want to do all this crazy kinky stuff, but it's like they can't even say that to the girl. They can't even say I want to do X, Y, and Z. It's like their whole
Yeah.
being getting choked up. So before even worrying about how do I get all this stuff, it's like just speak your desire, start there. That's a step one. So that's what I'd say, like on a practical, once you're there at the sex party type of thing. But almost like what me and Chris were saying earlier, I think a lot of these issues, they don't originate when you walk in the door at the sex party. They originate when you were fucking 12 years old and your mom told you off because she caught you jacking off. So there's part of the work that can be done like in the moment. And then there's part of like the deeper work where look for a mentor or a coach who can like, why do you have that shame walking in? You didn't just
Hmm.
pick that up on the drive over to the party. Like that's been with you for the last 10 or 20 years. And you can either paper over the cracks with the 3-step method don't show your shame at the BDSM party, or you can actually do the real work and figure out why is that there, get to the root of it, heal those things, so you can embrace that more in every area of your life. This is sometimes these questions come as like a quick fix, but they're not actually seeing the deep root of the issue. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah.
Love
I'd say
that.
that's brilliant from Daniel. That's exactly where my mind was going. Where it's like you have like the quick fixes, which like yeah, like I mean I love what you said where like just talk about it. Like when I teach my clients about dirty talk, right? A lot of them have like they have trouble getting the words out. Like you said, like it gets stuck in their throat. So a lot of times I'll be like, your homework is to go into the mirror and like go read some erotica out loud in front of a mirror and go look, go practice saying dirty shit, like because your mouth and your vocal cords they're not used to it, and for some guys like there's so much shame, um, but a lot of that is kind of just a stopgap. Like you got to go deep and get to the root cause of the shame, otherwise it's kind of always going to be there. And like yeah, that usually does require some kind of professional help, like with a coach or a therapist or something. Like you said, it usually goes back to like childhood and stuff, where like, oh, your parents got you jerking off, and then they like spanked you and shit. Now in your mind, you're like, um, but yeah, I'm thinking if there's anything else I could add, but that was brilliant answer from Daniel. So
Awesome. Now I'm going to go to a little bit more of like just like a flashy type of question. Um, can both of you give me your recommendations on essential sex toys?
hmm. From like just in general or for BDSM specifically?
Let's say general and BDSM.
Hmm. Let's see. And so uh, I'm going through the inventory of all my toys. And I was like, oh, what's essential, what's not essential, right? Well, okay. Uh, or Daniel, do you want to go first or?
I'm not a big toy guy, if I'm just going to be
Okay.
honest about it. So I don't have too much to add on this. Chris, probably the best one to speak on this.
Okay, yeah. Because I mean, I'm thinking about what toys would be essential. Okay. So here, okay, I'll give you my autistic sex toy answer with all the categories. Uh, so first of all, toys, when it comes to being like a guy, I always recommend guys have at least one vibrator for women. A lot of guys recommend like the Hitachi magic wand. That's a staple for a lot of women just because it's very powerful and it has a cord, so it never runs out of batteries. And so a lot of women love Hitachi wands, and a lot of women have them themselves. And so if you have one, it's like, oh, you're part of the club, and the way to use it too is make sure you have condoms so you could reuse it. So I put a condom on the Hitachi magic wand. So, and then you use toy cleaner afterwards, right? Oh, always have toy cleaner as well. That's also required. Thing about Hitachi though is even the low setting is really powerful. So then I always recommend having like just a regular smaller vibrator. And that could be any kind. A lot of people like the little bullet vibrators. But yeah, so I would say like get a Hitachi magic wand and like a small vibrator. So this way you have like low, medium, and crazy. And so just from vibrator wise, you're golden. Um, and again, always use protection with your toys if you're having multiple women use them. Um, and so like bare minimum, I'm like a lot of guys can get away with just that.
Mm.
Right. And so like when I was getting into the sex scene and like I was in the swinger scene and I was going to all the sex parties, I became I had a big music bag that I filled with all kinds of toys, and so I kind of got a reputation for being the guy with the sex toys. Um, and so if you go to like sex parties or BDSM parties, you're going to need more toys than just like a vibrator, right? And yeah, and remember, always have lube. You always want lube and toy cleaner. Always. So if you ever have toys, always make sure you have lube and toy cleaner. And if you're getting lube, make sure it's like a water-based lube because the silicone lube will ruin most of your toys. So always get water-based. And then when it comes to like dildos, I mean, some guys like to use dildos on their girls, some guys don't. I find dildos are very kind of specific to the girl. So like if I get a girlfriend, I'll buy her dildos that she likes, but I'm not gonna just buy dildos for random chicks, right? Because everyone's particular. So like I don't recommend so I don't recommend getting dildos for chicks unless you're dating them. Um, and then I mean there's let's see. Well, so there is one toy that a lot of women recommended to me that they liked and everything was like an anal vibrator, like a little small anal vibrator. And so a lot of women like that. And that was very popular. And so you can get a little anal vibrator, also kind of optional. And I would say those are what you need for regular, any kind of woman, any kind of sex. Then for BDSM, it's like, let's see. Usually I would say get some kind of impact toy, like a riding crop or like a paddle or like a flogger. And the thing about these toys too is there's different levels. Like you get cheap ones to experiment with. Like I started out with just like maybe like a $25, although this was like 20 years ago, so now it'd be like $100. But there's a really cheap sampler pack of BDSM toys that you could try, and you could see what you kind of like. And then if you like for me, I got into floggers. So then once I realized I like playing with floggers, I like flogging women. I liked all the impact play. So then I started experimenting with different types of floggers. I even got some fancy custom made leather ones and stuff. Like those are real like I love those. Um, and so yeah, like you could go real wild with it. But I would say like have a couple impact toys, have a couple sensory toys, right? Like I liked what's that little thing? Like the wheel with the spikes on it.
Pinwheel.
Yeah, the pinwheel, right? And so yeah, like I like the pinwheel. Like that's really fun. And a lot of women love to experiment with it just because like every woman that I ever played with, I don't think a single one hated the pinwheel. They all loved it. And a lot of them it was their first time. And so like a pinwheel is a great accessory for your toy bag just because it's very small, very simple, but it's also really kind of cool and unique. And it looks kind of metal. It's like this metal, it's like a pinwheel with all these metal spikes on it that you roll around the skin and stuff. And I would say like those are like your basics. And also tie downs. And so like I would have like cuffs and stuff, like cuffs or straps, or if you like rope, get some binding rope. But yeah, something to bind with. So something to paddle with, something to bind with, and something for like sensory play, you know. And I would say that like you just have one from each category and you'll be set for most things. And then if you like something, then go like for me, I liked the paddles and the impact play. So then I went wild with that. So like in my bag, I had a ton of impact play stuff. I had like crops, riding crops and floggers and paddles and switches. Um,
I got a
yeah.
16-inch paddle right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it, man. See, Armin came to play.
Yeah. I got two more with
Yeah.
her, but yeah.
And so yeah, like I would say that would be my essentials for a toy bag. Going to like a BDSM party, or a sex party or something. Um, yeah. Am I forgetting anything? Any other essentials you would recommend? Maybe a blindfold. Blindfold's always good. Even just for regular sex, it could just spice up regular sex for someone who doesn't like BDSM, but they want to experiment a little bit. Blindfold, perfect. Yeah.
That was do you have more you want to add in?
No, nothing.
Okay. Yeah, that was a beautiful list. I would definitely buy the pin thing you said, pinball,
Yeah.
pinwheel.
Yeah, the pinwheel or like the official name starts like the guy's name is like a G, like a Grafenberg wheel or something like I forget the exact name, but pinwheel's close enough.
I'll find it after this. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Daniel,
Yeah, and they're not too expensive either. Yeah. And they make them with multiple pinwheels too. So you can get it with like one row or two rows all the way up to like a bunch of rows of pinwheels.
That is sick. Love that. Cool. Now I understand, we're at the hour, but I have a million questions. So if you guys want to stay on, great. But I have one more main question, Daniel. Hope you can stay to answer this. Now, what do most men not realize about women? And I want to deliberately make this open-ended. So whether you want to base it with BDSM or sex or anything, whatever you want, I'm going to keep it open-ended.
what do most men not realize about women? Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll touch on two things that pop into mind. The one I kind of already mentioned, so I'm not going to go deep into that one, is almost like women's capacity for negative emotion. And even if you look on like a cultural level, if you look at like women's romance novels, even something like Pride and Prejudice, which is written by a woman, for woman, loved by a woman, it's like most of the book is negative emotion. You got have you even if you watch the movie Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, like most of the movie she just kind of hates the guy. Like the
Yeah.
first scene is like she meets the guy and then she's like behind this like seating arrangement and she overhears him talking to her friend, and the guy, Mr. Darcy, basically says like, yeah, she's low class, she's beneath me, I would never kind of look at her. And I'm like, this is not a man writing this. This is not some sick man like misogynistically, like this woman is beneath me. It's like, this is how the feminine psyche works. The
Right.
negative emotion are so tied in with the positive emotion that if you take out the negative emotion, the love story doesn't exist. And to me, it's still, I still need to beat this into my brain because it's so revolutionary and it's so far out from what I used to think. Even a more modern example is like Twilight, which is again massive. In any of these movies that were like huge cultural sensations, it's like there's something deep that speaks to people in them. You could add 50 Shades of Grey, which is more of a BDSM one, but even Twilight, it's like she falls in love with the vampire. He really loves her. I don't know if it's the end of the first one or the beginning of the second, but he basically breaks up with her. He's like, I don't want you anymore. Like, get the fuck away from me. And for like the first 20 minutes of the second movie, she's just like in this depression where she's just like staring out the window. She's having these night terrors, like screaming about how much she misses this guy. And I'm almost like, fucking hell, this looks like torture, like what the fuck is
Hmm.
going on here? And then like later on, it's like, oh, he had to do that to save her. There's always like a logical reason, but the negative emotion were there. And like, if you're a guy, you'll be like, okay, if I could just take out that scene where she was in heartbreak and totally distraught, like, wouldn't it be an even better movie, a better love story because it didn't have all that negative emotion? But it's like, no, the negative emotion is part of the romance, the attraction, and the love story. And this is why in pickup or seduction, using the neg, teasing a girl and giving her a ping of negative emotion, that'll do a lot of good for you because you're hitting on both sides of it. And then like it can go deeper and deeper and deeper. So the first thing is like, don't avoid negative emotion. Now, you don't need to be in a manipulative asshole. Like, let me create a fake fight so I can give her some negative emotion. That's how like pickup guys' brains work. But just
Yeah.
with your boundaries, just with your no, just being a high value man who's busy, focused on building something, a career, you've got other friends, you've got hobbies. Negative emotion is naturally going to come up when you're honest and when you have boundaries. You don't need to go looking for it. Like your girl's going to be like, oh, babe, like let's just chill and watch a movie. Where you said, hey, I'm going to go to the gym today. You say, no, I'm going to the gym. And she might be like, why did you want to stay with me? The negative emotion comes just by you being a man on your purpose. So that's what I'd say. Number one, like woman's capacity for negative emotion. And number two, and this is kind of a woman thing, but it's also a human thing, is like women's lies, and this is not like a moral judgment, like women are liars, they're disgusting, we're these pure people. It's like human beings are fucking liars. We always present this part of ourselves to the world, but like our real desires and fears are usually layered beyond things. So again, like even on a very surface level, you can ask like, what do you want in a guy? She'll be like, I just want a nice guy who brings me flowers and treats me good. But then it's like, what is she actually attracted to? It's very different. Or like even in the bedroom, Chris was saying earlier, like a girl might be like, hey, this is what turns me on. And she's not like even consciously lying, but sometimes you need to peel those layers back. And it's like, wow, maybe that actually wasn't what turned her on. She said that's what turned her on, but the reality was something very, very different. So I think like guys should have like a healthy skepticism of women, not like, I don't trust her, she's going to try fuck me over. But it's almost like you're just like going along with what she says. Like you bring a girl home, she's like, yeah, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to have sex tonight. It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's like, yeah, give her cover as well. You don't need to call her out on this stuff. But I think a lot of nice guys, they buy everything a woman says on the surface, where to me, humans are way more complex than that. It's nothing to do with like, oh, she's dishonest or something like that. It's just like, it's human nature. We present part of ourselves to the world, but usually our deeper desires are something else, and don't always buy the surface level thing that you get. Peel the layers back and see what the answers are for yourself. So those are my two. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Chris, please take it away.
Oh, what was the question again?
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
I was just like totally nodding along with Daniel's answers. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Those are both of those things
That's the one.
are
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
The question is, what do most men not realize about women?
Mm. And so let's see. So the first thing that comes to my mind is kind of something Daniel related earlier in the call, which is that women are very sexual and women love sex. And I think a lot of guys don't realize how much women love sex. But they don't love sex with just anyone though. And I think that's what fucks guys up. Because I think for guys, we like a lot of, especially a lot of like the younger guys or a lot of the like the horn dog type guys, like they'll fuck anything. They'll fuck anything that moves. They'll fuck anything with a vagina. Like they're um, I used to be that way, so I totally get it. And it's hard to kind of empathize with a woman who's like most women are actually way hornier and dirtier than most men. Like, yeah, I mean, when you read like romance novels, I also recommend guys start reading romance novels written by women for women. You'll learn more than you will from like most coaches. Like you'll learn more than you will from anything. It's like those like romance novels written by women. Um, they're like manuals, honestly, of like how chicks' brains work. Like, and Daniel was touching on that, like with Pride and Prejudice and stuff. Like even going back a couple hundred years, still the same thing, you know. And most of those romance novels are so smutty. Like I had no idea. It's like so I started reading romance novels, and it's like I actually read romance novels, or at least I used to, when I was like learning how to sext and learning how to like flirt, and it was great reading these novels because it's like, oh, this is from a woman's mind. And she's like describing how she wants a man to seduce her and flirt with her and talk to her, you know? And I was reading a romance. One of my friends. Oh, and then having female friends is great too because they'll recommend shit for you. One of my female friends recommended I read a romance novel, which is like set in the modern times, and it was like with programmers and stuff, and it was so relatable. First of all, because like I used to be a programmer and everything, but it was so nice to see like, oh, this is how like a female programmer, how she's relating to her like peers and stuff, and how she wishes they could be. And it's like, oh, I'm getting like this inside track into how women actually think about sex and guys. Um, and it's a lot dirtier than what I used to believe. And I think a lot of guys, they, it's not that you have to tone it down, but it's like you have to, like, how do I describe it? It's like you have to warm women up to the idea that you're going to flirt with them and sex with them. And I think a lot of guys, they go from 0 to 100. And the thing about women, like their dial doesn't end at 100, but you got to go slow. Like or like you got to go slow might not be the right word, but you have to go very consciously through. You have to be very deliberate about what you're doing with a woman and making sure you're not overstepping your boundaries and things like that. I think a lot of guys, I know I would make this mistake a lot. My clients make this mistake a lot too. Like when they come to me and it's like, oh, they'll get a woman, she flirts with them, and then they're like, hey, come suck my cock. And it's like, okay, yeah, you got to slow that. Like you got to get her hot. You got to get her wanting to suck it. And if you can get her to want it, then she will. But like, because you already want it, because you're a dude who's horny. But like, guys don't realize uh, you can actually make her go even wilder. but it does take some patience. It takes some practice. And that, I mean, this was my secret to my success is I got really good at this where I would just sext a woman all week long. So it was like a week of foreplay. And then we go on our date and she'd be like fondling me under the table. She couldn't wait to get me home. And and that was like, and I was like, this was when I was like a programmer. I was working all week. But well, during my breaks, I'd fucking send a bunch of sexts and it would be like a nice slow burn for a whole week. And then all weekend she would be wilder than me, you know? And so that's what I mean where I'm like women are actually way more sexual than guys if you can turn that dial. But most guys, they don't learn how to turn the dial up and they just assume a woman's going to be hot and ready to go, like the guy is hot and ready to go. And so, us guys, we have to learn that, I mean, this is kind of cliche, but it's like, yeah, like guys are like a microwave, and women are like an oven. And like, you got to warm that shit up, but it's so true. It's so true. Like, most guys that I work with, like, like they're ready to go. Like, oh, if a woman touches your your thigh, it's like I'm ready to go. Let's go to the bedroom. And that's all a guy needs. But like a woman needs a lot more. But the end result is bigger, I would say. You know. And so yeah, it's like just to remember, like women love sex, but they don't like being manipulated. And so and I think that's the other big trick is it's like you don't want to be manipulating women. You don't want to be like trying to trick them into sex. Like I think that's something that came out of pickup too, was like a lot of this, like we have to trick women into sex because they don't really like it. And what I found is it's actually the opposite. Like if a woman likes you and she wants to fuck you, she's going to make it really easy to have sex with you. And so you don't actually have to manipulate them to have sex. That only comes about if a woman doesn't like you and you're trying to get her to come home with you anyways. And I think that's where like some of those unsavory pickup tactics came from. It's just, oh, she doesn't like me. How can I kind of trick her into liking me more? Um, but so for me, I try to make sure like it's always mutual. It's always like, oh, she likes me, I like her, I want to have sex with her, she wants to have sex with me. And once I know that, I'll play with that forever, and I guess that's the second thing I want to bring up too. Women love anticipation, and guys, we're very fast. We want to get off as quickly as possible. If you only do one thing to change like your sex life, make anticipation a priority. And so like for me, that was a big one where um I this is something I learned from BDSM actually was like drawing out the orgasm. I got really big into orgasm play for a while, or orgasm denial, orgasm play, which is like I would just tease a woman. I might, have her bound and tease her, and I'd bring her to the brink of orgasming, and then I'd stop, and I could do that for hours, like just edging her like crazy. And what I found is like for women, that's like crack. That's like like once they find a guy, like, and most guys, like women will talk about it with all their girlfriends, where it's like, oh yeah, he only lasted 2 minutes or 3 minutes and the sex was over. And so if you can, and you don't even have to last very long because if you build up that anticipation, like I've done that before. Like I'm thinking about this one chick who was like super, super tight. And so like, but this was one of the chicks that I'd built up all week. And like when we were at the restaurant, she was like fondling me and shit under the table. Like it was crazy. And so then when we go to the hotel room, then it was like I like she was just so tight. I couldn't last very long. But then she was just so ravenous. It was like because she had been anticipating it all week. Like that was enough for her. Like she was like, "Oh my God, that was amazing." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Oh my God." And it's like because she had been anticipating it all week. And so even if you don't last long, it's not even a problem if you build up that anticipation. Um, but most guys they kind of throw that away because they want that quick sex. And so if you want to make your sex life more robust, start focusing on anticipation, like in Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's a little anticipation. Um, but yeah. So yeah, women love sex, women love anticipation. And I think I'll end it at that.
All right. Now, I've noticed that both of you have really good active listening skills. Now, do you have a question that you want to ask each other? And I'm
Hmm.
putting you on the spot.
One that comes up from me, I know, Chris, like you said, you used to do some like pickup stuff. I think pickup's a good stepping stone. I think it's a good step in
Yeah.
the right direction. Just don't get stuck there for too long. What were some of the cool things you learned from like being the nice guy to like when you started approaching women? Like, what was that experience like for you? Was it exhilarating? Was it scary? Yeah, just keen to hear about your early experiences, like gaming, so to speak.
Oh, I mean, it was very scary. Like I had a ton of social anxiety, and that was something that I think for me, I kind of got stuck in that kind of social anxiety place because, like, with pickup, they really only have one solution for that, which is just like bulldoze through it, like just
Yeah.
do massive amounts of approaches. And for some guys that works, but for me that didn't work, and that just made the anxiety worse and worse and worse. And so for me, what happened with pickup is I think with pickup things got worse and worse and worse. And I was in it for many, many years. Like that was like my main source of coaching was pickup. For many, probably for like 4 years at least. Um, and so by the end of it, though, I was like very frustrated. And I was like, this is not the whole picture. This is definitely, like I saw it work for a small minority of guys, but I saw it not work for like 80, 90% of guys. And so that's when I was like, there's something missing. And that's when I started looking for other coaches. I started looking for research stuff I could find because I'm like a scientist kind of type. And so, I was reading research papers on like social anxiety and research papers on like confidence and motivation and things like that. Um, and so for me, with pickup, it was just a lot of kind of hitting my head against the wall. But like it was weird because I would see glimpses of it kind of working, and that's what kept me going. So like that's why I was in it for so long. Is like it didn't not work, but like I wasn't getting laid, I wasn't getting dates, but I would get like, oh, a woman like touched my arm or something, or like, oh, she's talking to me and she kind of likes me. Like I would get little like positive feedback like every once in a while from women doing pickup exercises. And so I kept going back because I'm like, there's something here. I'm just missing it. Um, yeah, but not, yeah, I'm like, I'm thinking back to those early days and like, there's no real good stories. um, that's not
What
true.
about a bad one? Do you have any like embarrassing or bad ones? Anything stand out?
Yeah. Well, let me think. The thing about it so apparently women say I have a very nice face, like very, not nice, but like very, um, is very
Gentle.
gentle face. And so like I remember doing some pickup exercises where like they would hire models to work with the guys, and they had one where they wanted the women to insult the guys, and no one wanted to insult me. And they were like, yeah, they couldn't insult me because like, oh, he's too much of a teddy bear. And I was like, but I need you to. And so,
Like the girl who
like,
wanted you to give her a black eye, but they just couldn't do
yeah, yeah, it's just like that. And so, well, I'll tell you actually my first really good experience, which is with my old coach. So I did eventually find a coach who, like, he's kind of a pickup coach, but he's more like inner game. He's, I don't know if you guys know like Brian Began from like Fearless, but so
Yes,
so
yes.
he was,
Oh, Brian. Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
yeah, right, like Brian. And so he was the guy who kind of got me over the hump. He was the guy who got me past pickup, and because there was a lot of healing I had to do, and so Brian helped facilitate that, right? But this was my first workshop with Brian. I went and did the weekend workshop with him, right? And so this was interesting for me because I had already done a couple years of pickup at the time, and so I thought I knew what I was doing, and it was just, and so so during the workshop, he brought his girlfriend and he was recording it. And he was like, okay, pretend you're at a bar, go pick up my girlfriend, right? And I'll record it. And so like I had been practicing pickup for a couple years at that point, and I'm like, I'm gonna own this, right? And so like all the guys go up and do the practice. So then it's my turn. I'm like, I got this. And so I zoned in, I locked in. I go up, I'm like, I'm charming, I'm funny. Like she gives me a hug. I was like, I fucking own that shit, right? And so, so I sit down, I'm feeling great. Then we watch the videos. So we watch the videos, and and Brian's giving us all feedback. And so he gives me feedback. He's like, "Oh, look, like he's like you're turning feminine." I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, like your voice is going higher, like you're like taking on these feminine mannerisms. It's like, yeah, it's almost like you're ashamed of your manhood or your masculinity. I was like, what? Like I couldn't I was like, but she was responding so well, and it was great because she was there, she was still there, and she was like, yeah, but there was no sexual energy. It was like you were like my gay friend.
Oh,
And then Brian's like, yeah, you're like the gay friend. And I just was like, oh my God. And I was like, but you hugged me. And she's like, yeah, like I would hug my gay friend. And I was like, oh my God.
That's so
And
funny.
so that was the first time I had like a real deep epiphany about this stuff. And then the way Brian explained it, and then I could see it happening was like, it's like the more that I was trying, like the more that I liked a girl, the more I would go into my feminine. And it was like by the end of the video, I was like a woman practice. Like I was like twirling my hair and shit. I was like, what the fuck? Um, but I remember thinking like, oh, part of that was me kind of disarming her because I didn't want her to feel offended by my masculinity. So I was like matching her. I was like matching her energy. And for me, that was the first big eye-opening moment of like, oh, I'm ashamed to be a man. Like that's what it like I'm ashamed of my masculinity and my sexuality. And that was what I had to heal. And so a lot of the work that I did with Brian was kind of just like healing that like shame around my masculinity and my sexuality. And letting women see it. And so like for years I hid my sexuality from women. Kind of like what Daniel was saying earlier, where it's like, oh, you don't want them to find out you like them or that you find them sexual, which is totally opposite now. I tell like anytime I'm with a woman who's attractive, I let her know, even if we're close friends of years, I'll be like, damn girl, you're fucking hot. Like, you know, and so, which is a far cry from where I started, where like that was all hidden. I could not vocalize any of that, to anybody, let alone a girl I liked. But that's the secret. Like or at least the secret for my success was learning how to just like express my sexuality. Like how do I express my sexuality into the world? Because I'd been hiding it for so long, right? And also my masculinity because I was ashamed of it. Because kind of like what you guys were saying, where like so the kind of feminist media stuff and all of that anti-man like propaganda. It's not really propaganda, but that's a complicated thing. Anyways, but there was just a lot of negative shit around being a man and around being a sexual man. And I think a lot of us nice guys, we kind of internalize that and take it on. And we're like, ooh, I don't want to be like that. Um, but you have to learn how to be an admirable man who is also sexual. Like, I don't even like the way I said that because it's not also sexual. It's like you are a sexual being and you have to accept that and you have to own it. And that's what's missing, I think, from most guys who are struggling with this is they don't want to own their sexuality. And then they're always looking for the easy way out where they're like, oh, I'm gonna like go to a strip club or I'm gonna hire escorts or something. And it's like, oh, that's the easy way out where now you get to just do your sexuality in secret. Um, but the way out for me was to just own it. And that also included like, oh, I love BDSM, so I had to get in the BDSM scene. I love like sex clubs and sex parties, so I got into those scenes. Um, and then the big so for me too, uh, part of the practice was also putting all that stuff on social media. And so like, because I was really ashamed, it's like, oh, what if my family and friends find out? Like it took me like a year to own being a sex coach. Like it took a while to just publicly own it. But now it's everywhere. Now it's my identity. Now it's like, oh yeah, that's part of who I am. And it's like it's on my Facebook page. It's I remember when I was meeting a new grandma for the first time from like 23andMe. And and she's like, "Oh, I checked out your Facebook. You look like such a lovely man." And like on the top it's just like get laid. Or I don't know if you see my Facebook page, but like the top of it is like, "Oh, I help guys get laid and shit." And it's just, and there's me with a bunch of porn stars. Um, and I remember at first I felt embarrassed. I was like, I should probably change that before she looks. And I'm like, no, that's who I am. Fuck it. I'm gonna own this. And even with my anti-sex parents, I started owning it. And what was interesting is they're not as anti-sex as they were when I was a kid. They're like, oh, that's interesting. What's funny is now my mom, she loves to talk to me about like dating and women and guys and stuff all the time now. And she loves to watch like the oh, what's that show called? Oh fuck. What's that show with like the foreigners come over? 90 Day Fiance. Right? Like she loves having me watch 90 Day Fiance with her because then it's like she loves hearing my professional opinions about sex and dating. And it's like such a far cry from where we started where like she couldn't even imagine me having like a girlfriend. Like it was fucking blew her mind. Like, you know, and I think some of that was like that toxic mom shit where it's like, oh, he's my little boy. And so you have to fight against that too. So like I had to fight against a lot of shit. Um, but now I fully own it and I don't give a shit. And then if people judge me for it, then I'm like, fuck you for judging me. You know, like fuck you for being an asshole. And this is what I try to teach all my clients is like you have to become a man who can say fuck you. And like a lot of nice guys, that's scary to do. And so for me, I'm always like, no, you got to own it. And I love seeing guys own who they are. Just like, yeah, you know, I don't know. It's just, it feels so good when people own who they are. And when people try to take you down, you're like, fuck you. Like, nobody's taking me down. And so that's kind of where I'm at now is like, fuck everybody. I don't care. I go to sex parties, you know, I do BDSM. Um, you know, like I recently had a thread go real viral on Twitter because it was about like, oh, I had sex with several hundred women. And everyone's like, oh, you're a dirty man, you're a misogynist or whatever. And then I took him to school, and then you know is kind of interesting to see what happens when you put all that stuff in the public. And a lot of people will judge you, but a lot of people won't. And that's the part I think that nice guys miss is like, yeah, sure, people are going to judge you, but this is how you find your people. So like when that went viral, I had a ton of like sex workers start following me, a ton of like BDSM people started following me, and it's like, "Oh, I'm finding my people." And like, yeah, I got judged by some of society, but I'm finding my people by putting it out there. You know, and that's what I was missing when I was younger is I was so afraid to be myself. I was so afraid to be sexual, you know. And now I realize that's a huge part of my personality is sexuality. Like that's a huge part of my identity. And so now I fucking own it. I love it. This is great. Like I've never been happier since owning who I am, which includes sex parties.
I love that. Really comprehensive. Chris, do you have a question
Mhm.
for Daniel?
Yeah, it's so Daniel, like for you, what was like one of the biggest challenges of coming out of that like religious background where it was like, oh, like everything's anti-sex, and like what was that for you? Because like I kind of went through something similar, but I'm curious like what it was like for you coming out of that.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, it was a very difficult experience. You know, I think like your parents have a big influence on who you are and how you see the world, the paradigms, the beliefs that you adopt. Um, and again, like we've said it multiple times, pickup has some good things and has some not good things. But one of the things that did help me was like starting to own my sexuality more, you know, even just going
Mhm.
up to a woman to me, that was like so crazy. You know, it's like, what, you just like will go up to a woman and like start talking to her. Like
Yeah.
part of what Chris was saying, like being a man who owns who he is. It's like, yeah, what kind of world do we want to live in? I mean, I know technology is all over the world, but I really don't like going in public spaces, especially in big cities, and everyone just like staring at their phones all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened to the humanity? What happened to people connecting with people? So for me, like teaching guys cold approach is not just about like, oh, how to get laid. That's obviously can be a part of it, but it's also like being who you are as a man. What kind of world do you want to live in? You want to have an AI sex robot girlfriend? Like, cool, if that's you, awesome. Or do you want to like take on the challenge of human relating? And with women, it can be messy. You know, your shit gets brought up. There's trauma. She's got her shit as well. But that's what like makes it so magnificent of being human. So like coming out of that sexuality thing from yeah, the religious background, it was just like the answer to the guys of how do you own your stuff at the sex party. It's like just making a start, just going up and speaking to women. And then when I heard you could just go up to a woman, have a chat with her for 2 minutes, and then just say, hey, do you know what? I just actually think you're super cute. Like I'm like, you can't do that, like that is wild. So like the journey of owning my sexuality, it was a slow one, it didn't happen overnight. And pickup for me was a big stepping stone in the right direction. Talking to a woman, just telling a woman I think she's cute, So it was kind of like an onion, it was like peeling back the layers. And I still think there's a long way to go on my journey. I'm by far at the end, and it's almost like it's like never ending. You never really get to the end of it. And I'm excited to see what comes more. So yeah, bit of a short answer, but I hope that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
yeah, I know, like what you said, it's like an onion. It's like there's layers and it's never over.
Yeah.
There's always stuff to explore and things to learn, and experience. I
Yeah.
mean, even for me with BDSM, there's a lot of stuff I haven't learned or tried. I still haven't gotten good at rigging ropes. That's something I always wanted to do, like shibari. I never got good at shibari. I've only tried it a couple times. And I'm like, ooh, that's something I
Chris,
want to get into one of these days.
Chris, what's like the most complicated bondage you can do? Is it like the
Uh,
hog wheel?
what was that?
I think it's called a hog wheel when the girl's like legs are like,
Oh,
like
like hogtied?
yeah, hog tied, yeah.
Or oh yeah, I would say that's as complicated as I got was like hog tying, which was fun. Um, and so, but yeah, I would say like simple hog ties they're not too complicated compared to like some of that other shit that's crazy. But for me, that was like the limits of my abilities. I've been to parties and events where they did like crazy rigging, where it's like, oh, the girl is like, she's like all like crazy and she's upside down hanging from there. Um, but yeah, I've never done that before.
Awesome. Cool, guys. I have one more question here, and I really appreciate you, being able to stay here, stay on, and this is really amazing. Speaking about the onions, as both of you are talking, I have like more questions, like but I have to keep holding myself back because I want to give you, the space to be able to express yourself. My final question for both of you is, tell us your top three mentors and what are their greatest lessons to you.
Cool, I'll jump in. One of my favorite mentors, a guy named Pani. Check him out on Facebook and YouTube. Amazing stuff. He taught me a lot about man-woman relating. So a lot of like the deeper psychology parts. I'd kind of found him after I went on the pickup journey. So it's not like he was teaching me how to cold approach women, but a lot of the deeper psychology parts of also what it means to be a man. That's why I got into pickup. I was like, I'm a young guy, I'm broke, girls don't like me. I'm like, what does it mean to be a man? It means you fuck a lot of girls and you make cash. And I kind of went on that journey and ticked those boxes, but I honestly didn't feel like a man. To me, that's like a small part of what masculinity really is. And he really opened my eyes, like to see the whole picture. And he's also big on BDSM. Like my knowledge is still very basic in that area. I'm not an expert, but a lot of the things I learned from him have been super helpful outside of a BDSM scene. So he was huge for me. Another guy, Jesse Elder, he's not really into like dating or pickup specifically, but in terms of like being an authentic man and owning your stuff. I also like mixing like spirituality and science, where it's kind of like woo-woo energetics plus like tactical stuff. And to me, like Jesse Elder's the master at that. He like crushes it in business in so many areas, but he's also like deeply fucking woo-woo and out there. And to me, I really respect that in people. And the third one, my first pickup mentor, Gabriel Gray, he taught me a lot of things. There's things that I've told her I don't like about it because I think pickup, if you just solely focus on that, it can warp a lot of stuff. But I have to give him a lot of credit because he was the one where I was a nice guy, just being lonely. He helped me get out of that and start talking to women. And that set my life on a completely new trajectory. So yeah, I'll definitely give him a shout out for that.
Yeah.
So those are my three. Yeah.
I remember Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And
Chris, please take
so
it away.
yeah. So for me, well, first mentor would be Brian Began, from Fearless. Like he was the first coach who actually made like a difference in my life. And like I had a few before that where it just didn't work. And so, for him, it was a lot about like the feelings and the emotions and the healing work. And it's like he was the first coach to really address some of the root causes of why I was struggling with women. And so for him, that was huge. And that was one of the big things for me. Um, and that was I think that's probably the first time I felt like I had like a real mentor in my life because like I went through most of my life without too many like actual like mentors. Maybe there were guys I kind of looked up to, but I wouldn't call them a mentor. Um, and then the second guy that comes to mind would be Rocco Siffredi. And so Rocco, he's like a porn star, the Italian stallion, right? And he's known for very animalistic, very primal sex on camera, right? He is a legend in the adult industry. And the reason why he was like a mentor for me is because that I started watching his films specifically to get in touch with my own primal, like masculine sexual energy. And I would say out of all of the like adult performers out there, like him and what's the guy's name? Manuel Ferrara or something like that. Like those two guys, like they're just their energy is very primal, very like real. You know, there's so many scenes where like the women are just like they can't even talk. Like they're just orgasmed out in their heads, or like there's a famous scene where like fuck, what's her name? Angela White is like she's like there's a scene with her and Manuel where they're having sex and it's very primal and like she orgasms so hard that she starts crying. Like it's like is like whoa, like that is real primal shit. And so when I started studying like Rocco's films specifically, and then I discovered Manuel, it was like, oh, like I would watch those before a date. I'd watch those like I was like, oh, I'm gonna feel into this energy, and it would come out, and so like I use that as a way to start bringing out my own primal sexuality, and it is amazing. It was like whoa, changed my whole life. Um, and then a third mentor, um, who would I consider a third mentor? I mean, honestly, probably my first girlfriend. And so my first girlfriend, like that was my first relationship. That was my first dating of someone. And I was maybe like 28, 29 at the time. So very late bloomer. And, she actually kind of mentored me a lot in women and dating and relationships. And she was very patient and she loved exploring and experimenting with me. Like when we first started dating, we had like a very kind of soul connection kind of thing going on. And one of the big moments for me was like, oh, I feel it, but I also feel this draw to like have sex with lots of other women. And so I was very open and honest with her about it. And it's like, look, I just started dating. I've been a virgin most of my life. And she was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking like, is it cool if I fuck other women or if we do swinging or something? And she was like, I love that for you. She's like, I want to help you. And so like she actually was a big part of me discovering my own sexuality. Right. And so she like supported me. Like we would go to sex clubs on the weekends and she would help support me. Or like I would have a big crash because like the low self-esteem would come up and the shame would come up. And so there was a lot of just, and then she had been in many relationships. She was a couple years older than me, and so and she's a very attractive woman. So she had been in lots of relationships. So she had a lot of experience and a lot of helping. Um, and so for me, that I would say she was probably like a big relationship mentor for me of just learning and exploring and allowing me the kind of safety to experiment without like, like if I went into that conversation knowing that it could end the relationship. But I think it would have been a lot harder of a journey if it did end than to have like the support of my girlfriend to go discover my sexuality. Right. And so then that was definitely huge in all of this, you know. And she's also the one who I discovered BDSM with. And so then that was, a lot of discoveries with that first girlfriend. um, and even after we broke up, though, we remained friends. Like I remember we were getting the phones. We were at AT&T because we had the same, we were on the same family plan. So we were breaking up officially, right? So I was kind of sad. But then like the woman who was helping us was like this really hot Russian chick, and she goes, "Chris, come on, like go, like just like she's into you, man." And she was like flirting with me, and my, and so my ex-girlfriend was like was like trying to wing for me, so she was very supportive.
That is beautiful. Wow. Well, gentlemen, it was an honor and a privilege in having both of you in here today. This was really great, honestly, and I felt bad that I interrupted some of you along the way because you were just like, both of you were just going at it. So if I discourage any of you, because Danielle, in the beginning, you were, hammering it every single time Chris finished a sentence, but then I stopped you, and then after that, you stopped doing it. So if I discourage anybody, I apologize. Okay.
No problem. No problem.
Oh, it was
Okay.
awesome. This is a good call.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate both of you being here. Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. Let's do this more in the future. I'll get other individuals as well. But yeah, this was amazing. Is there any last words y'all want to share before we wrap up?
Just a final thought from me. I'm excited for the future. There's a lot of forces working against men and against man-woman relating, and yet I have so much hope. If you're a man out there listening to that, to this, don't give up hope. Keep fighting whatever field you're in right now, whatever space, whatever breakthrough you're trying to achieve. There is something beautiful waiting on the other side of that fear. So keep going, men. I think the world needs good, strong men at this time more than ever. And I believe people, this panel, this conversation, and the guys listening to it feel a call deep inside of them to be part of that revolution, so to speak. So yeah, it was awesome being here. If anyone wants to check me out, probably best place is Daniel White on Facebook. I've also got a YouTube channel, but that's probably the best place. And thanks so much for having me, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Also,
I love it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think right now is a critical time for men just because there's so much, there's so much just toxic bullshit out there. And a lot of guys are getting lost right now, on both sides, right? It's not even, it's just like a lack of like masculinity, like healthy masculinity, right? And a lack of leadership, and so we need more men stepping up and more men becoming leaders right now, and more men owning their masculinity and owning who they are. And I think, yeah, like talks like these, working with guys like Armin and Daniel and me, and just like, and getting more positive, like, just more positive, like vibes, not vibes, but like more positive, like content in your feeds and shit, like, I look at some of the shit that's coming onto YouTube and Facebook and stuff, and it's just so much negativity, so much like, oh, like everyone hates men and we have to hate them back, and it's just a lot of it's a vicious cycle, right? And I mean, what I'm trying to do with my own work is I'm trying to break that cycle with guys. It's like there is something better out there. There's better ways to be. You don't have to be an asshole or like a manipulator or like this kind of bullshit guy to get women, to get laid. You can actually be a genuine, authentic, strong man and be attractive, and to live the life that you want to live. A lot of guys think they have to sacrifice their values to get women, to get laid, or to get the life they want. And one thing that I try to prove every day is like, I don't sacrifice any values anymore. And I find my life gets richer and better. And like right now, like right now I'm disabled. And so like, I don't really go out much. But even being disabled, and I spend most of my days in bed right now, just because, I'm sick. I still have a very robust life, very robust social life. I have lots of women who want to bang me, and it's just by how I show up online. Like I'm not even going out and dating like right now because again, too sick to. But like I get women in my DMs all the time, like sliding in, and it's shocking to me because before I was like, this would be impossible. Like nobody would want me. No one would want me just in general. And like right now, sometimes I do feel a little depressed because I'm dealing with some disabilities and stuff, and I get depressed with that. And it's like, oh, nobody would want me. But it's like, no, you show up as your authentic self. People want that. People are craving authenticity right now because everything's so fake. Like every other post is AI slop. Like we don't know who's real and who's fake right now. And women, like when women go out with guys, like, 90% of the time, the guy is just trying to get laid and will say or do anything to get laid. And so everyone's just seeking something real. And so part of what I try to teach guys is like, you can just be real. You can be your authentic self, but you have to own it. You have to be courageous in owning it. And that courage, that is what makes the difference. Because a lot of guys say you can't just be yourself. I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you can, but you got to be courageous about it. And that takes a lot. Like that takes a lot of balls to be courageously yourself. And that's what's attractive. And that's all I do. That's the secret to my success. I'm unapologetically me, as loud as possible. And it attracts the right people. So like right now, my social life is really huge, which is surprising me because again, I've been like in bed most days for like the last 2 years. But my social life is bigger than it was even like 3 or 4 years ago. So it's nuts. Like the more you show up, the more people will like you. And if you show up for women, the more women will like you. So if you want to learn more, like you could find me at my website, chrisalvino.com has all my links. I'm most active on Twitter. And so, my handle is just at Chris Alvino. You'll see me get into lots of Twitter fights. It'll be fun. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I got is, be a good man, be your authentic self,
Cool.
and, yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This was really, really nice. Again, as both of you were saying your closing statements, I had like 50 more questions in my head, but no worries for another time, definitely. Well, anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up right here. You both have a beautiful, amazing day. For you, Danielle, it's the morning. Enjoy the beautiful. Looks like it's really sunny over there. Here it's raining really, really hard.
Oh yeah, it's raining over here too.
Is it there too? Okay, yeah, we're both East Coast. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right, brothers, you all have a good one, and it was a pleasure having you here.
Oh yeah. It was nice meeting you, Daniel. Awesome.
Yeah, you too, Chris. You too. Keep flying the flag, brother.
You too, buddy.
Cheers, cheers. Bye.
Cheers.